What's up, Podcast Nation? Nick Overby here, your faithful and lovable bald host of the New Agent Podcast, coming live from the den, as always. Well, recorded live and aired at a later date. But hey, guys, I want to welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. If you've seen some of the posts on social media, you know who's on the show tonight. If you don't know much about Chris, you're going to learn a lot about Chris tonight, hopefully. We'll see. But I want to introduce none other than Cincinnati, aka Chris Cleveland, aka the big-headed duo on the mic. So what's up, Chris? How you doing?
Good. How are you? Any city in Ohio does, even though I've never been there. But Cleveland, all of a sudden, I've become Cincinnati lately. I just flow with it.
Where did that is that snack wine Anna that started that?
Yeah.
How did that?
She made a mistake. She walked past me, and everyone calls me Cleveland. So she walked up and she was like, "What's up, Cincinnati?" Oh my God, I totally didn't mean to do that, and it just stuck. So that's her name for me now, Cincy, because she messed up. But it's cool.
Ain't nothing wrong with
it's
that.
Funny, yeah.
Something is stuck, right?
That's how awesome nicknames get started. Random things that catch on. So
yeah. Well, and the fact that when it's used in more abundance here, it kind of makes you feel like home.
Right.
Yeah. Unless
nowhere else in the world am I known as Cincy, but in the den, I can be Cincy some days.
The island of misfit toys, my friend.
Oh, it's wild.
How's your day going, man?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I gotta say something. You're one of, I think, maybe two people, and this is not a negative thing, that you've come to me on multiple occasions, and I love the fact that you've talked to me about the podcast. I'm going to deep dive into my journey for just a second. When I started this, it was all about just learning the business and documenting it as I went. And I love the fact that you told me one day that you listen to it on your runs occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that's extremely important, because at least I know at the end of the day, I know I'm doing something.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I told you tonight was going to be a little different.
Okay.
I do have some of the baseline questions I'll always ask everybody on the show, especially because it's the New Agent Podcast. But I want to dive into Chris too, because get as vulnerable as you want or not. It's up to you.
Mm-hmm.
The idea, though, is because I personally, as I was thinking about this over the past 24 hours, I know you, but I don't know you. And I have an interesting connection with you. I want you to tell the elevator story here in a little bit, but
yeah,
I want to know, before you got here, kind of where you come from. I know you're a father of 2 or 3?
4.
What? Okay. So,
but we'll get there.
That's why I want to know. So, tell me, let's tell everybody who you are, and then we'll kind of just get into it, where you're from, yada, yada, yada.
Basically, my name is Chris, as you know. Very happily married man, married the greatest human being I've ever met in my life.
Hell yes.
What
is her name? What is her name?
Melissa. Greatest person I've ever met in my life. Right. And I've met a lot of people. She's awesome. She's amazing. The greatest mom, greatest wife. I have to try to convince her to not do things for me. And her response is, what husband doesn't want their wife to do these things for them? And then I come back and say, what wife doesn't want things taken off their plate? You don't have to do that, honey. You don't have to do it, baby. But I can't make her stop.
The only man I've ever known that's questioned a good thing.
She does so much for all the kids. I kind of want to be one that she doesn't have to add my stuff to her plate, but she's that great of a person. She's like, no, I love doing this stuff. So I can't make her quit.
No, I mean, at this point,
really, why would I? Right. But
yeah, you're just grinding against the grain at that point.
Yeah.
He could. How old are you?
40.
Okay. Kids, oldest to youngest?
22 to 4.
Oh.
And there's details there that make it, it's more understandable. So I had my son when I was 17, high school statistic, but I wouldn't take it back for anything in the world. He went to my high school graduation. That's my man. He's amazing.
Yeah.
And then I had him before I met my wife. So I met my wife when my son was 5. She came into the picture. My son made her a mom because we didn't have any kids together yet. So they have this super tight bond and relationship where, she's the stepmom, if that's what you want to say it, but it's not like that. It's like, he has a biological mom, but he also has Melissa, and that's his mom, and she loves the fact that he made her a mom at 23 or 22 when we met. I was 23. So they're super close. And then my wife and I went on to have 2 daughters ourselves. So we have Taylor and Bailey, 14 and 10. And then this past year, in December, we adopted our niece, who's 3 at the time. She's 4 now. It's not 100% official yet, but we're in the legal process. Lawyers are paid. They're doing their due diligence, getting it all done. So, at 39, I didn't expect to have any more kids. We made sure that wasn't happening.
Yeah.
But life is life.
This is true.
So, and when we had our two daughters, Melissa, she did want a boy from the beginning, from baby on up, you know, sports and mohawks and all that cool boy stuff.
Yeah.
But we already had two girls. We knew if we tried again, our luck would be we'd end up with three girls. So we said, you know what, let's call it quits. We'll be fine. And then 9 years later, we end up with a third girl anyway. So it's cool. The little girl is, she came from a really rough childhood. So we're able to remove her from that and give her something much better. So
you've always, to me, I believe that somebody who moves, the way I see you, and this is just my observation, you move in silence. You do things at a very strategic pace, right? And to me, knowing you as a man in the den, that you doing that and making somebody else's lives better, life is better, it doesn't strike me as anything crazy to you, man. I mean, you know, you've always, at least for me, been this very tall, burly man who just really wants to give everybody a hug and say, I love you, I'm here for you. Is that wrong to say?
Not at all. I mean, I've been called a gentle giant. I have this this strange analogy where I talk about, you see a Great Dane, you're like, whoa, that's a big ass dog, but you're not intimidated because you're like, oh, look, he's cool, he's fine, he's not gonna hurt anybody. But if like you hurt one of that Great Dane's puppies, then the Great Dane comes out, right? So, but I never have to do that. I never have to be this big, scary, ugly person. I want to be nice. I want to treat people well.
Chris, for anybody who's questioning this,
you know, I want to be nice. I want to treat people well. You know, that golden rule. It's like it's a no-brainer. So I'm not very vocal. I'm pretty quiet. I've always been that way. And even here, people see me come and go, and they might be thinking whatever, but they don't know what I have going on at home. You know, one of the things that I've done in my past was worked way too much. So the life that my son had with me not being home very much, I don't want that for my girls. And I didn't want that for him, right? But I was in my early 20s. Yeah. I had to do what I had to do. Now life's a little better. So I just want my daughters to know, like, dad did everything he could, but he was around at the same time. You know, I'm around a lot of entrepreneurs, and some of them have said that they worked so hard they went home to strangers, and that's not going to happen in my house. There was a time where I was working a lot where that probably was the case, but now that my kids are a little older, I'm not going to let that happen again.
It's kind of interesting because I know you come from a primarily corporate background, and then being able to come here and do your own thing. It's to me, I see an interesting correlation where you gave your life up for essentially somebody else, right? You were working so much and you lost that time. Obviously, like you mentioned, times were different, right? I mean, I could resonate with that, but at the end of the day, now that you have the ability to dictate not only your schedule, but essentially your income,
right? Life's
a little bit better.
It is, but it's a learning curve for me, because I'm realizing lately that I'm learning how to be an entrepreneur. I'm so used to, like 7 to 5, get as much work as you can get done in those hours, and then you go home. But I'm realizing that there's some flaws to that mindset when you're an entrepreneur. You know, like so we're in this field, right? I can work from home if I want. I can't work from home. I've learned that. I'm just like, if I stay home, I'll get to work, and then something will happen.
Tending to the reptiles.
The 4-year-old is there, one of the animals, the dog, the tortoise, whatever it may be, something. I'm like,
that, by the way, just real quick, that was something that I did not expect from you, to be a tortoise reptile person. Like, I was not expecting that. But then after I learned a little bit more about you, it made sense. But that was like off the bat, I was like, there's no fucking way.
I'm like an animal nerd, but not the type that's like, I love dogs and kittens and want to be a vet.
You don't have a sticker on the back of your car that says, I love my whatever.
No, I eat meat, all about it. But animals is just the thing that I'm the most interested in. Besides my wife and kids, my next favorite thing in life are animals. So I've got 25 at home or so.
Holy shit.
A lot of them are fish, so that doesn't really count.
That doesn't count. They take up this much space. Well, not the way you have it.
Right. Yeah. I have a saltwater tank, freshwater tank, turtles, tortoise, lots of dogs, snakes. But that's what I love, you know. So
okay.
I've had Instagram for a while, and I've got about 56 accounts, and about 6 of them are humans. All the rest are animal accounts.
Dude, it's so funny you say that. You know, I talk often about my friend Nick, who lives in Georgia. So he works for State Farm, and he has a dog. and his dog is named Jake, and he has an Instagram, and the Instagram is Jake from State Farm.
Right.
And Nick takes Jake everywhere because Jake wears khakis and a red shirt. No lie, I'll show you. It's genius. And from his business standpoint, that's a marketing expense,
Sure.
right? And so he gets, it's some portion of it's reimbursed by State Farm, which to me is genius.
Right.
Like, I gotta get a dog or a lion, get a phoenix, with the Usha thing. Well, you must say, Jimmy. No, it's okay. Everybody here, anybody who's ever watched this podcast, yeah. So, that's interesting. 26 reptiles, 20 give or take.
No, 26 animals total, but a lot of fish. So people don't really count that as individuals. But when they die, I'm like, man, it's gone.
Oh, I love it. That's so okay. That was the idea for me at the very beginning here. I wanted to get to know, because I think that, me looking back at the podcast, I don't really ever get to know who I'm talking to. Yeah, I hear your journey, right? We're going to get into that. But most of us have, there's a lot of parallels, right? So I think knowing you as a human before we know you as an agent is extremely important.
Sure.
We'll talk about your business here towards the end of it, but I think that in my personal perception, being in sales the majority of my adult life, we're not humanized enough. And so what I'm kind of going back to on the podcast is, yes, we are new agents, right? This is our line of work. We're going to talk about things that you've learned here, right? I want to hear the elevator thing, but I really want people to know that at the end of the day, we are just like everybody else. And ultimately our goal is, yeah, we're going to here to feed our families. Yeah, we're here to make a good living. And this is an industry which you can do that in. And to your point, you have the ability to be with your children more. Like I had the ability to work a half day yesterday and still get good business in and be with my son on the day that I couldn't on his birthday.
Right.
That doesn't happen anywhere.
Right.
And that was because I was sick for whatever reason. But
or you would need permission. You'd have to fill out forms and get requests. And
the only thing I ever do is I let Stoner know, hey, by the way, I won't be here till X time. And if I'm, just communicate. But I don't ever have to feel like I'm checking in or clocking in. And that's a huge thing for me.
Sure.
So obviously we're in the den, right? Excuse me. This is a big influence on the podcast now because this is where I've done it, not only physically, but also where I've lived it.
Right.
So for you come from corporate, right? Well, tell us your background.
So I grew up in the restaurant business. I grew up in a small town in Rhode Island. So people may disagree, but I feel like in my hometown, you either get in the trades or restaurants, right? You can go to college, do all that. I went to college, didn't quite finish, got into the trades instead, and did that for the last 16 years. Worked my way up, was managing 2 departments, but I never loved HVAC. I kind of fell into it. It paid the bills. I got good at it, kept moving up and up and up. Became manager, had a comfy job with 401k and a company vehicle and all that stuff, but I didn't like it. But I was with a good company. So you can kind of, take your losses. But then once I felt like the company wasn't good anymore, then I felt like, man, I have nothing left. What am I doing? I'm waking up every day, waking up at 4 a.m. thinking about a certain customer or a certain issue or just something I'm not interested in.
And it's not you.
When I get interested in something, I get real nerdy about it. I dive deep and I read and research, like the animal thing. Before I buy an animal, I'm researching it for months and months and maybe years, So, but when I was in HVAC, I never went home and was like, man, I want to look up this new piece of equipment, or I want to look up this new wiring diagram, or I want to nothing ever, not one time,
Never.
And I should have, I did a lot of studying. I took a lot of classes and stuff, but I was never passionate about it. So once I felt like the company I was with wasn't a good place to be anymore, I had nothing left. So I knew I was ready for the next level. I left the HVAC industry, started applying to a bunch of huge companies around here in the role of like director of operations. I was in management. I'm ready for the next thing.
Correct.
In doing that, my wife asked me to tell her the 3 companies I was most excited about. And I'm like, oh, baby, no problem. Get out the laptop. And I just start scrolling through. And in that little exercise, realized like, oh my God, I'm not excited about any of this. I was applying to do the same job, just maybe without air conditioning. I would be in a different building, managing a bunch of guys to fix a bunch of things, install a bunch of things. And I realized, I'm going to be miserable in a year if I go forward with this. In that process, the health insurance dude had a management position available that I applied to randomly just because it said management, salary, everything matched up. And the interview went a little different, where it was, here's a path to become a manager type person. And
who'd you interview with?
It was Perry.
Okay.
But you have to start selling first. So then I'm sitting in this interview thinking I'm applying to be manager, but it was more like, here's a career path if you choose to accept, right?
Should you choose to accept your mission.
And with everything that happened and everything that was said in that interview, when I left, I felt excited. I felt pumped up, and I was like, I went home like, babe, I don't know, man, this is something about this, you know, but I've never been a salesman. I've always, like, I don't know if I said it already, but I was always super shy, very insecure. So being a salesman just wasn't for me, you know, not my thing. But then I realized 19 years in the restaurant business, bartending forever, and being in HVAC for 16 years, I'm in front of a client, a customer every day. I'm on the phone with people all day.
Yeah. You're selling yourself.
Built me
every
to
day. Like, 1 second. Hey, good job today, sir. Well done. Sorry. I sales is always important.
Oh yeah. So it made me realize, like, hey man, maybe everything is built me to be a salesperson, you know, and came in for the interview and wasn't sure if I was going to do it or not, but then that's where the elevator story comes in, right? So I hit the down button on the elevator, and you happen to be going in, and I made the assumption that you must work here because you're on the same floor. And I asked, hey, you work here? Yeah, I work here. What do you think? And your response was 4 words that meant so much. Changed my life. It changed my life.
I was like, hold on.
Yeah. But, and then of course the conversation went on, but if you had a bad day that day, or, you know, something on the outside just had you down, you could have said any number of things, any other combination of 4 words that, man, this is so difficult. It's hard. I don't know. It might not be for you. That could have changed how I felt when I drove away. But when I drove away, I was able to go, man, I just talked to somebody that did this. He said it changed his life. Not many things directly change someone's life. It's got to be big, right? And a career, an office, environment, a mentorship, it was huge. That little elevator ride was, like I said, you could have said that something completely different, and I would have been like, I'm never going back. That dude, he hates it. But it wasn't that way.
Miserable.
Yeah. Look at him. He's miserable.
Lost all his hair.
He's gray.
Yeah, unfortunately, this was going to happen either way.
Yeah.
But outside of that, okay, so I mean, that I've always told you that's huge to me. I mean, it's you know, because there are bad days, right? To your point, I could have been caught on a bad day, and thank God I wasn't. I don't think I would have ever said anything negative regardless, because it's just not who I am. But it's funny that you're here now. How long ago was that?
6 months.
It's funny because it changed my life in the sense that I've gone through things as a person and as an agent within these walls, whatever that, you know, whatever it looks like. And I've become different. Like, I am an honest to God different person. And I've learned about myself, and I've learned what I don't want out of life. And, you know, I've been an entrepreneur, right? I've been in business for myself since February 3rd of 2018. And my background was kind of like corporate. And it's funny now, I never put it into the words that you did, but when you said it, it made so much sense. I was like, holy shit, I kept looking for jobs that I was going to be miserable in, and I just didn't know it. And, you know, I am, and if anybody's watched this, my story, I was supposed to go to Hearst, came here by the stroke of the universe, whatever you want to call it. I'm here, and I'm God blessed for that. And at times I probably take it for granted. I think we all do.
Sure.
But it's amazing to see that you're here now. And I think it's fair to say that you're doing okay. You're surviving and you're making a living, right?
Yeah.
Which in the first 6 months of this business is probably rare.
Right. It's difficult for sure.
So I think that leads me to kind of another line of questioning, because this is not an easy job. It takes a skill. Yeah. I mean, it is arguably the hardest job I've ever had. Right. I mean, and more mentally, right? Because, you know, if you can get past the making X amount of dials or doing whatever it takes, it's a mental breakdown.
Yeah.
And
for sure. So I have days where I get very discouraged.
There you go. So I want to know.
I just go, did I make a mistake? Should I have done this? Is my family going to be all right? I know in the long run it will, but I mean, it's very difficult. And when days don't go your way, Some people just, so here's what I've learned. The typical salesperson, the salesperson personality, the negative days, they just like a duck, let it roll off their back, keep going, keep going, keep going. I'm not really like that. It bothers me. And I'll get down like, man, this is tough. But then the next day, something great happens. And then I'm right back up. Oh, this is amazing. I knew I made the right choice.
It's that.
Yeah.
That
And then the next
coaster.
day I'm like, oh man, maybe I should have done something different. But here's the deal. The thought of me going back to a job like I had, terrifying.
Yeah,
absolutely terrifying.
it really is, dude.
I don't want any part of that. I don't want anyone to, we've got it pretty easy here. You know, if we're producing and we're not causing trouble, we kind of, you know, we get to come and go as we please, as long as we're part of the team, an active member of the team.
Yeah.
Right. I'll give an example. 2 weeks ago, I went to Nashville. So I wasn't technically working Thursday, Friday. I didn't need permission from anybody. I just let my FTA know, hey, Thursday, Friday, I'm out.
Yep.
Okay, have fun. Good luck. Make some connections. I didn't have to do PTO paperwork or
Right.
None of that silliness.
Worried
you know?
about being added to my check, or if it's not
Right.
going to be my
Well,
check.
if I take these 2 days now, then I don't have them around Christmas and all that kind of stuff. Like
yeah.
all of it. And I had a moment where in maybe a month or two in, I had a client, kind of my first real client that was anti-health insurance. It's a scam and this and that. And it was late at night and I kind of took things personally and I started going, man, did I make a mistake? I was, you know, your mind starts rolling.
Yep,
so,
I
oh
do.
my God, what did I do? Should I go back? But in that moment, the thought of going back to the job I had, I was thinking, if this, whatever it takes, I got to make this work, whatever it takes, you know, and being the father and husband, financially, my wife has a great job, makes very good money, but it takes 2 incomes for our house. So I need to be producing, and I've got this, it's not like it's, I mean, it's what we all have to do. You have the same thing. You have to make money. You have to make this work.
Yeah.
So that's where I am. I'm like, I'm going to make this work, whatever it takes. But at the same time, I'm not going to not be home for my family. Yeah. So I'm trying to balance that. And maybe if I were able to let some of that go, I could spend more time at this and maybe be producing a little more. But I'm trying to find that really nice balance of my daughters always knowing that I was there for them. And especially now we have this little one. I don't want my wife to get overwhelmed with, you know, the entire house all on her own. And,
but you know, she's capable. Because she's shown you.
Yeah, she's told me, shut up, don't come home, stay at work.
Well, and here's the thing is that, so when I started August of last year, right? July 27th. And so I didn't have really much of a, here's what's open enrollment is going to be like, because it's going to kick you in the dick. And Perry told me, he said, hey man, what you need to tell Flynn is that for the next 6 weeks, we're not going to see each other as much. However, not only Christmas, but next year, you're going to see me more and it's going to be a better Christmas. And I stuck to that. Right. And for me, I prevailed. I was here 15, 16 hours a day. Did I, you know, got kicked off the Facebook team during this time and because but you know, I made a lot of money.
Right.
I was able to fulfill the promises that I told my son, Flynn, that was you're going to have the best Christmas you've ever had for me. And you're going to see me more going into next open enrollment, which I've done. I've succeeded in both, right? I've been able to go and do things with him. And I think to your point, the balance will come. It will. I mean, well, in fact, that's a lie. It will probably never happen because you can't really determine or say, well, this is when it's going to be busy, so I can plan for this, right? You're always going to get calls at baseball games, or you're always going to get at a gymnastics match or something, right? When you don't at least expect it, it's going to happen.
Yeah. So
that's just my perception of it. But all that aside, I'd like to know more about what you've experienced in the den, because I think the biggest thing I get across here is, and what we've talked about earlier, not every character in this office is the same. In fact, there's a lot of stark differences. You handle your business different than a lot of other people do, than I do, than whomever, right? And so I'd like to hear more about what you've learned here and how you've allowed that to impact your business, because you've done well, you're still here. So what's keeping you going and what are you doing?
Let me just touch back a second. When I did my interview, Perry gave me a similar speech. When you start a new business, first 6 months, that's it. You're not home. You're not going to see your family.
Correct.
But I've done that. not so much starting the business, but working so much. I used to work 80 hours a week. And when I was home, I was either too tired or broke to do anything. Right. So I don't want to do that again. That's my point of like trying to find that nice balance.
I like that.
I've done it before. And like I mentioned, when I was younger and my son was young, that's when I was working like a maniac. So there's a lot of time I didn't get with him. I don't want to duplicate that with the girls. So, but as far as being here, man, one thing I realized immediately was we're all from somewhere completely different. I think there's one person in here that has been kind of a lifelong health insurance agent. Everyone else is from something completely different.
And that motherfucker won't even get on the show. He's too scared. You're talking about Chris, right? Okay, I'll call him out. Chris Haybear, where you at, bro?
Yeah, he hasn't done it.
No, he's too chicken shit to get on. He doesn't want to get on the camera. I keep calling him out, and one day he's like, "Yeah, I'll do it. I was like, all right, cool, let's do it today." I don't know, bro, not today.
Yeah,
Chris, you are arguably one of the smartest motherfuckers in this room. Why aren't you here?
I think that if Perry says out loud that you are one of the best health insurance agents and the most knowledgeable in the country, that means something.
Yeah,
coming from Perry, that's a big deal.
Yeah,
Perry's the GOAT, right? And if he's saying
Agreed.
Chris is this good, it's got to be true.
I agree with that. 100%.
So being here, though, I like that everyone's from a different background. We all get along pretty well. When you get 30 to 50 people, you're not going to get along with everybody. It's just how it is. And I've got some people like that. Not that I don't get along with them. I just choose to, I choose who I spend time with and who I talk to. And, you say hi, good morning, but
just, part of being in a culture of this nature.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I agree with that.
But it's interesting how even though we're all from different fields and backgrounds, we all have the same goal and we're all achieving it together. And we're learning from each other, even though like a year ago, I wasn't in health insurance and all I knew was what my company presented to me once a year. And a lot of people, Liz was a teacher and Victoria was a counselor for churches, for girls and growing up, like all completely different wild jobs, right? And now here we are helping people in a different way. And that's something I love about this. When I was finishing up my HVAC career, it was 2020, the pandemic, of course. The world was madness. It was practically on fire everywhere, right? Like people are dying. The George Floyd thing was going on. So much happening. And I would get HVAC clients calling up angry and so mad that my daughter's bedroom is 2 degrees warmer than this other room. And that is unacceptable. And I'm just thinking in my head, of course, man, if this is the biggest concern you have in your life in 2020, you're doing very well.
Yep.
And that kind of,
sorry, we can still hear you.
That kind of mentality helped push me out. I'm thinking, man, I want to help people in a way that's more personal.
Yep.
I was over fixing people's rooms be a little cooler or warmer depending on the season. I want to help someone in a way that's going to really affect their life in a way that they're going to remember. When you're a service tech in an AC field or something, you're in and out. They're like, thanks for you're doing a good job. See you in 6 months. When we find people that haven't had health insurance or didn't think they could afford it, or they have a severe condition they need taken care of and they have no way to pay for it, and we can put them in a situation where their life is going to get those problems resolved, that's rewarding. And that's when we get to go home and go, man, that lady feels so much better after she got off the phone with me, and I want people after I deal with them to go, you know what, he was a nice guy and he helped me out tremendously. And that's where it ends. It's all I need, Are they better? And was he a nice guy? Yes, he was.
I mean,
that's it.
The goal for me has always been health insurance, Nick. That's it. That's all I care about.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's not all I care about. Came on really tacky. I would say that all I care about with my business. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I do. At the end of the day, we all want to help somebody, but we also want to feed our family, right? And I mean, there's just that. To me, that's the biggest balance: is how do I give my time to my business that's adequate while also giving time to my family? I'm a little bit different is that I don't see my son every day, but it's still a struggle. And so that was something too I wanted to talk about. I feel like in the past couple of months, as I've watched you and we've all watched each other, you have grown as a man, right? And I think part of that I always believe that part of the success is always going to be in the struggle.
Sure.
So for you, what have been some things as an agent that have been tough for you?
So I was offered a sales position a few years ago, and in a lot of corporate companies, you take some sort of personality test.
Yep.
And that test rated me as not a salesperson at all. So I was given the job, got cards printed, started the process, and then it was taken away from me. Because of that test, the personality thing said your autonomy is too low. You're not the type of person. And I said, well, hey, what about the human factor?
Yep.
I've been through a hell of a lot. I can persevere over a hell of a lot because I've already done it. So that's something that I've learned. All right, now I am in sales. And the thing that they thought would deter me from continuing, I deal with it every single day. And I try to do that duck thing, let it roll off my back, onto the next, you know. I try to continue to care, but at the same time, I've learned a lot of rejection, right? We get people on the phone, and for whatever reason, I was taught by a very good friend that when you're in sales, it's the person, the price, and the product. So as long as I'm not the reason that they chose not to go with me, I'm fine. Maybe they can't afford it. Maybe they don't like the coverage, but it's not going to be because Chris didn't treat me well or educate me enough or anything like that. So rejection in sales is just part of the game. Dealing with that is way easier now. You know, I've learned to not expect anything, because when I think I've got this in the bag, next phone call I get this person on, they've already told me they're good. Not so much. And I've learned that
expectations are the root of all disappointment.
Absolutely. I mean, I've been to the point where I'm at the point in my call where I'm at saying, sir, all I've got to do is hit this finish button and we're good to go. And I add a few more details. And then, so I've learned, don't get your hopes up, which I've lived my life by that motto, which is not a great thing. But when your income is determined on that, that's something, a huge learning curve. You know, the being turned down is one thing, but when your money feels like it's not going to be deposited into your check when you get turned down, that's something I've had to get used to.
Well, that comes into the old, let's roll it off my back.
Right. And my wife and I are learning how to manage 100% sales commission job and survive. Right. And it's very stressful.
Yeah. $3,000 one week, 300 the next.
Right.
600 the next, $5,000 the next. You never know.
And you never know. And I could go 2 weeks without a single penny. And that's tough, you know. And I honestly think my wife's a little nervous, but she sees the light at the end of the tunnel. The opportunity we have here is something I've never been presented in my life. So I'm not going to give up on it. But this first year is going to be hard, and we're halfway through the first year. So
it will be. I mean, I gotta be honest, man, I had a rough couple of weeks just in my personal life. And my mom mentioned to me the other day, she's like, have you ever thought about going and looking for a salary job? And I'm like, you know, at this point, I'd be fucking miserable. B, I've already put too much work into it to turn back. Like, it just, like, to me, it's like, why? And I undercut my efforts all the time, right? And so I think that's part of my problem. But no, man, you've already come this far. Like, I mean, in 6 months, I mean, most people who know they're not good for this, they've already gone, right? They're 2-3 months and they're, fuck this, I'm gone. I can't do it. I can't mentally deal with this. I just have this, I'm a Cowboys fan, so I have this just immunity of getting beaten over the head. You know what I mean? And then maybe one day, but no, man, hey, look, so I know it's getting late. I do every podcast, and there's a lot more we can talk about, but I want you to tell everybody about your business, because this is part of what I do. I think it's important that people know that I'm not the only person that sells health insurance, because at the end of the day, they might like you more than me, which probably won't happen, but no, I'm kidding.
Well, you never know.
Exactly. Right. And so tell us a little bit about your business. Obviously you sell health insurance, but where can they find you? How can they reach you?
So I am on social media reluctantly. I got social media because of the business. I've always hated it, hated everything about it. I used to give my wife shit all the time about how much time she spends on Facebook. And now we sit side by side, not talking to each other, scrolling through this stupid phone.
The book of faces.
So of course I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn, and I have Instagram, but I don't use it for business whatsoever. That's my
56. I was 56 accounts, and how many?
6 of them are humans.
There you go.
One's my son. One's one of my daughters. Joe Rogan, Jocko Willink. It's not like humans that I know. It's like people that
Joe Rogan's if I could ever be like a Joe, like do a podcast like him, that's the idea.
Sure.
Yeah, I love that. So
there isn't one bigger in the world, I don't think. But with Instagram, I say I use Instagram for its body. I don't interact with people. I don't talk to anybody. I've sent a couple messages to my son only when he sends me one first. But other than that, Instagram's for my animals. That's it. But yeah, I mean, I've got I'm trying to get into a lot of in-person networking and things like that, because I don't want to, there's so many avenues that you and I can use to make money. I don't want social media to be one that, I don't want that to be my main source. The least amount of hours I can spend on social media, that's my goal.
Okay.
So in-person networking is something that I'm hoping will work out for me. The cold calling thing, I mean, I've been told by enough people that you could make 1,500 cold calls a day and not set an appointment. So to me, I'm like, man, I don't know if that's the right move for me. Where if
we're getting off track here,
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which plug your business. No, we're time limit here.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Yeah. Well, so Cleveland Health, you know, a private health insurance agent who specializes in 1099 employees, self-employed, things like that. If you have health insurance through your spouse, let me get you off of that. Probably save you some money. You know,
and email will be down here. What is the email?
Sure.
What is your email?
It's Chris Cleveland, but Cleveland has no vowels.
Okay.
So Chris, CLVLND at gmail.com.
Okay. I like that.
No big deal.
I'll post it up here so nobody has to actually think about that.
Yeah. No one would ever write that down. But yeah, I'm just anyone that is in a situation where they need health insurance. We all need it. People don't believe in it. And man, when that comes to bite them and they call us after the fact and say, hey, can we still get in? And it's too late. They don't understand the financial struggles that they can go through. I tore my ACL. I had health insurance. Luckily, if I didn't, that's like a $45,000 surgery.
Yeah.
Right. I don't have that. Do you?
No.
But I had health insurance. So I paid very little, you know, a couple co-pays, couple this, couple that.
Yeah.
But if I didn't, I'd probably still have a debt somewhere for this stupid knee, you know. And I don't want to, like, I think you and I talked earlier, we don't want to use any scare tactics. It's not about that at all.
No.
If you don't believe in it, I'm not going to spend a ton of time trying to convince you, because one little thing isn't going to change your mind if you've believed in something for years.
Yep.
But if you do believe in it and you do want some advice, I like to educate and help, teach you what I can. And however you feel after that, if you want to do business with me, great. If not, great. I don't mind. You know, I just want to talk to people and help them if I can. And if I can't, better luck next time.
Thank you for your time, brother.
No problem.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Adios, mi amigo.